Okay, so a bit of a catch up and a little bit of forging, bit of railroad spike work, something I haven't done as yet. So first of all, a bit of a catch up. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded anything for a long while, but I've sort of lost my mojo a bit fed up with the blacksmithing, a bit fed up with the videos. I've got lots of other work going on to pay the bills. When I'm not doing that, I just at the moment I just seem to be too tired to do anything else. I've got lots of projects I want to do. I've got stuff on the bench here. I've got a rotary positioner I started making. I bought all the bits and pieces for that. I've got a motor, I've got a power supply, I've got this PWM thing I've got for it with a speed control, reverse, forward and reverse to go on it. It's all been sitting here for weeks and weeks. It's just not happening. I've bought all the bits, or a lot of bits, for a belt grinder. I want to make a small one, like a 2-inch one. Again, it's got the bits, but just haven't got around to doing it. As for videos, I've got 2 or 3 on the computer waiting to be done. I've just lost enthusiasm, as I say. My mojo is just not there at the moment. But I thought I must try and get something done, and some time ago, some of you may remember, I happened to mention in one of my videos that we don't get railroad spikes over here. Funnily enough, 2 people, almost within days of each other, sent me some railroad spikes. So one of them requested that when I started using them, that he could come along and watch, which we did this week. I made this tomahawk or hatchet axe type thing that he wanted. So he came along on, what day was it, last week? Thursday last week, for a couple of hours. Watched me make this thing. So that was okay. That was a bit more interesting. You know, it's always a bit different when you've got someone there with you. You know, I work 99.9% of the time on my own, which does get a bit boring, and it's sort of limited to what you can do. If I had a striker, sometimes it'd be really handy, but just to have a striker kicking around for the odd 5 minute I might need them is just not practical. So I didn't actually film the video last week when my subscriber came in, Mick. I just thought it was going to be too difficult to do a video and have somebody there. So today I decided to, because it was sort of quite fresh in my mind, I did it again. So I've made another one. It didn't go brilliantly. I didn't enjoy it, as you'll see in the video. And unfortunately, blasted camera, battery went flat right at the last minute. So I had to finish the last little bit of it off unfilmed, and then I've just show you it at the end once it's done, when I got home and got a new battery. So that's basically all the sort of video side of it. I will try and get around to do some more, but as some of you might appreciate, making the videos and then editing them does take quite some time. Health issues, my hand. It's still a saga. I've had the second operation. I can't remember what I've told you and what I haven't, but second operation didn't work very well. I was waiting for a third, seeing a new consultant, waiting for a third operation. Because I've been waiting for so long, the NHS cancelled my appointments and sent me to a private clinic, which is all very well, but I wanted to see the consultant that I'd chosen for this particular job because he's recommended for hands. So it's all got a bit up in the air. Am I going to have it done privately? Am I going to have it done on the NHS? At the moment, because it's been waiting so long, it's actually starting to feel a bit better. I'm actually getting the feeling back in these 2. That one's still useless, but these two are starting to come back feeling, so I can use them now. I can sort of put nuts and bolts together now because I can feel the nuts and bolts, which I couldn't before. And the strength is starting to come back. It's still nowhere near what it should be. The pain in the palm, or in the wrist part of the palm, is subsiding. Still got some quite nasty pains up here, but it's much more livable with now. So what I've decided to do, because of all this argy-bargy between NHS and private, I've put it all on hold for, I'm going to give it the summer, because it is starting to feel a bit better on its own. I don't want to go through another operation and then find that I'm back to almost square one with pain, weakness, all the rest of it. So as it is starting to feel a little bit better, I've stuck it on hold for the summer. We'll see if we can have a fairly decent summer and then see what the winter brings. If it's still no better by Christmas, then we'll start again. So that's about it, I think, really. Some of you may have noticed the t-shirt. Thank you, Ave. Anyway, let's get on with the little bit of forging. I don't think it's quite up to my normal standard, but try and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we're going to start off with the bog standard American type railroad spike. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to upset it. So we're going to get it down to this mark here on the anvil, which is about 4.5 inches. So first of all, we're going to find ourselves some tongs if we can. Have a little look around and find some that will actually fit reasonably snug. They're not too bad. I might change them, but we'll start off with them anyway. So let's get her in the fire, get some heat on it. Now I want a short heat because when you start upsetting, if the heat's too long to start with, it just bows all over the place. So we've got a fairly short heat. It's still actually a little bit long, but never mind. Try and keep it sort of fairly square. Don't try and let it get out of shape too much, otherwise it's difficult to get it back. I'm struggling with these tongs. It's a combination of badly fitting tongs and poor hand control at the moment, I think. Anyway, so I want to try and get the width. Hang on, let's see if we can find some better tongs. Give those a go. I think they're going to be better. Come on, get hold of it. Yeah, let's get that back in the fire and I'll carry on where I left off. Right, going to try with a different pair. Alright, where was I? What was I saying? Let's try this. Yeah, they're better. Much better. Right, you can see now I'm holding it a little bit better, but it's still going out of control. Like I say, you want to try and keep it somewhere like square. And again, still keeping fairly short heat. Try and get the bulk of the material at the bottom. Now, what I was trying to say earlier, I want to get the width narrow it, or keep it that way and let it spread that way. That's what I was going to say. So you can let it spread sort of front to back, but not side to side, if you see what I mean. Because we want to keep, we're going to have to thin it out anyway to get the width of the blade, but we want to keep the bulk in it to get the width of the blade the other way, front to back. It'll become obvious. Keep upsetting it, keeping it square, as square as you can. So still struggling a bit with these this hand, but much better than it was. You can see what I mean. It's getting width front to back, but the side to side is still the same. Now I've still got about 3/4 of an inch or so there to go. So get it warm again. As I said before, within sort of 2 days of each other, 2 separate people sent me these spikes. One from Mick around the corner, who came in and watched me make one of these the other day, and another guy, Otis Lounsbury, I think he's down in Alabama, quite well known down that way. He invented the crab grabber. Anyway, I've got still yet to do a video for him using one of the spikes, so don't worry Otis, I haven't forgotten you. So carry on. You can see it's starting to thicken up. But now what am I looking for now? Oh yeah, my actual spike tongs, which I made in a previous video. Nearly there, a little bit more. I'm only guessing at the size I want to go to. You know, 4.5 inches seemed sort of about right. So it worked out reasonably well on the first one we did. So I think no matter, it's like all of these things, you can do the same one over and over again and they all turn out slightly different. You know, this one is upsetting slightly more to one side than the other. Fortunately it's going to the right direction, it's going towards the back, but I still want to try and keep the sort of front fairly straight. Still a little bit more. Back to the other tongs. I don't quite know why it's upset that way, with it all going out the front or the back. But actually it's worked out reasonably well. So I'm going to try and get it a little bit hotter, a little bit higher up, so that we can just try and increase the thickness a little bit higher up. I don't want all the meat down the bottom. Let's see how we get on. Right, see now I've got it a little bit hotter, higher up, and you see instantly it goes all over the place. It's always a danger. And I'm guessing because it's sort of gone off a little bit off square already, I've let it get out of control basically. I'm not doing this particularly well. I've let it get out of control. It's not going to upset evenly and I'm just going to struggle. But we're almost there, so I'm not going to worry too much because we're just about there. So I think that's almost going to be it. Yeah, look at that, that'll do. That's, move the camera around and let you look. That's near as damn it, that's good enough for me. So, before we go any further, next job is to drift the hole. Or punch the hole and then drift it. Because we don't want to spread it out first, otherwise you'll have a hell of a job with that width at the bottom to punch the hole. So I'm just going to do it on this block. It just makes life easier because of the shape. You can see I can rest it on there and it'll sit sort of flat. If I tried to do it on the anvil, there's my little slit slot drift which I made in a previous video. Just going to whack it through there. I will have to turn it over on to, obviously, to do the other side. But I'm gonna try it on this block. I didn't do it like this the other day when Mick was in, and I struggled. So I did it on a bigger block, and it didn't really, well, it worked obviously, but it just wasn't that easy. So I'm just trying this way to see if it's any easier. So I've got it nice and warm. I'm going to try and get this in the middle, so I'm going to give it a little tap first and just sort of check it. And it's not square, so I'm just trying to, you might have noticed I sort of eased it over a little bit to try and, see, I'm holding it not upright because it's not in the centre. So I think what we'll do the other side, go from the other side, and try and even it up. So if I get it right on this side, by the time we get through to the other side, this is where I could do with a helping hand. There you go. So it's much better this time. It's more in the centre on that side. And that side's not quite. No, it's the other way around. That's more in the centre and the other side's not. Anyway, either way, it's going to go down the middle. Yeah, so as I say, that's when you can either do with a helping hand, someone to hold it with a pair of tongs, or I suppose I could have got my spring helper out and just tried to hold it down. But when you only want to do a couple of bashes on either side, you lose a lot of heat while you're while you're setting it up, putting your spring tool on it and getting it in the right place, all the rest of it. You've got someone just to hold on to it for you. Now you've got to be careful you don't hit the anvil. That's one thing you don't want to do, is go. That's why I was trying, I think I've hit the anvil. I was trying to do it on the other bit of softer steel. Just call that out. Because although this tool is fairly hard, you'll still bugger it if you hit the anvil. It's almost there, I think. We're nearly through. The fact that nothing fits tightly. Actually, saying that, I had someone ask about why the tools, I don't know if you can see there, that's actually split through. Why the Hardy tools were never tight. Well, if they're too tight, you won't get the bloody things out again. So that's why all of mine are loose. 9 times out of 10 it's not by intention. It's just that the tools I buy, because I don't make my own Hardy tools, you just buy them. They usually have a smaller Hardy thing, the actual bit that goes in the hole. But as I say, you don't really want them tight. Sometimes it could be handy to have them tighter than they are, but you don't want a tight hole. Not in this game. That's through, you can see there. And the slug hasn't quite come out, it's still in there. It's just... Let's see if I can find a punch now. One thing I didn't sort out, my punches, my drifts. What have I done with them? Where are they? Hang on. Let's go and find them. Let's put that back in the fire. Just keep warm while I try and find my punches. They're around somewhere. Right, found them. Gathered them all up. That one is my little bob punch, which I use first. That's one, and there's the bigger drift. So, let's see if we can stick that one through first. Get rid of that. Get it warm. And give it some beans. Knock it through. I'm just going to open the cheeks out a little bit, knock it off. Now the bigger one, it will go, but I'm going to warm it up again first because I don't want to risk splitting it. splitting the cheeks. Yeah, that'll go in there. Right. See, that's just started. So let's get it warm. That's the one I'm aiming for, the big one. We'll stick that one through first. When I did this the other day with Mick, I only put the middle one of the three through, and it really wasn't quite big enough. But at the time, all I'd got was a big round one. I've actually made the next one that I'm going to put through. I actually made it this morning. It's just a bit of, I think it's 7/8 square bar, and I just narrowed it down a little bit and rounded it at the edges, and that'll go through there. And it's just going to be, it's nearer the sort of shaft that you'd want to put through something like this, really. And so the other one was a bit too big and round, and I was worried that it would split. So we'll get rid of those two now. So this I've never tried yet. I hope this one's not going to be too big and split it. Otherwise I shall have wasted my time. Now this one really does need some beans. I suppose what I could have done was just put a bit of lube on it, even if it was something like some tip dip or something, just to give it a little bit of a grease up. But anyway, it's through. And knock it off if I can. And of course that's a little bit too big. Oh no, there we go. That's got a shot of it. Alright, let's try and warm this up again and square it up. It's gone way out of shape. But the hole is a nice size now. That's a decent size hole. It's all gone a little bit wibbly wobbly, but we can straighten that up a little bit. It just means you've got a bit more meat on your sort of on your shaft. You don't have to sort of thin down your the handle, whatever you're going to use. You don't have to thin it down too much. That's better. Leveled it up. Stick this back through. And what I want to try and do, I want to try and open the cheeks out a little bit. I'm going to use my this little cross pane, which is worse than bloody useless. So, just going to use the ball end of my, or the round end of my shoeing hammer. Just trying to spread the cheeks rather than thin them, although I am thinning them. But the aim is to spread them. Stuck on again. I don't quite know what's going there. It will come out. You will come out. Right, okay, so I want to open the cheeks out a little bit more if I can, although now I've put that big thing through, there's not a lot of meat, but we're going to next do that, not next, but we're going to spread out the meat at the bottom, try and get the the shape of the actual blade. Right, what I'm doing, I'm just cooling out the top end where I've had the drift through, because I don't want that to go sort of get too distorted. So I've just cooled that top end out, and now we're just going to give it some beans. This is again where I could do with a decent cross paint to spread this out, rather than trying to do it with a nasty old club hammer. So I'm trying to use the edge of the hammer to spread it out a little bit, but a decent cross pane would be much better. This little one I don't think is going to do the trick, but that's sort of what you'd actually do with a decent cross pane. But that one is, well, pretty much useless. So I could do, as I say, I could do with a decent one. This one down here, wherever it is, that one might be a little bit better. It's a little bit heavier. I'll give it a go. But I could do with one sort of, I don't know, £2 perhaps. I don't like the big sort of £4 like this club hammer. But perhaps £2.5 might be quite a handy size to have. But see, that one's a little bit better. Not brilliant, but you can see it's spreading the material much better. And so if I had a, say, £2 or £2.5, that would make life a lot easier. But I've been trying to find one actually. I've been around all the hardware shops, I've been around all the junk shops, and you just can't get them. You can get a big one, which is probably £4.5. But I just don't want one that big. Wielding this club hammer that I've got here is hard enough. I might end up making myself one, but with the amount of forge work I've been doing recently, it may never happen. You can see basically what I'm doing. I'm trying to spread as much material as I can. Actually, I quite like that effect. It's quite nice. I sort of just hammered that in a little bit. Might not be a bad effect to leave, but I don't think I will. Not on this one, but it's certainly a possibility for another one. But you get the general gist of what I'm trying to do. Of course, you can't see if I do that, so I won't do it, but I'm just going to use the rounded end. Get rid of that one. I'll just try and take a lot of those marks out of it now, because I think we're not going to go much further in the whole scheme of things. I just want to try and define the shapes now around the edges and down the sides, because we've got too many little lumps and bumps. So I'd like to try and improve things like here, taking out any little lumps there. Not quite sure how to hold it to get up to that bit. Still a clumsy bugger, dropping things left, right and centre. I'm not really enjoying doing this, but We'll get there. I don't like to give up, but now it's getting thinner. That's what I was trying to tell you there. It gets hotter much quicker, so you've just got to keep an eye on it. Now that you've sort of thinned out that edge, keep a good eye, don't want to burn it. And not only does it heat up a lot quicker, but it cools down a lot quicker as well. I don't think I'm going to be doing an awful lot more to that. I want to try and get it down the centre a bit more. I'm not making it like one of those, what they call it, do they call it a bearded axe, where the back bit really sweeps back round towards the handle. I'm just going to do a, well, you know, bog standard as it comes, because A, I've never done anything else, this is only my second attempt, and B, I ain't enjoying it. I think half the problem is, the reason I'm not enjoying it is that I bent that front edge up, is I've got no real, there we go, dropping it again. I've lost my thread now, I don't know what I'm talking about. Can't even pick this damn thing up. These tongs are good but for holding spikes, but not good for picking stuff up. Oh, well. Pete's sake. We'll get there. And say, they're good for holding, but not for picking up. Anyway, we've got it. Right, come on, Gary, get your shit together. Right. It's gone stone cold again. But, as I say, I'm not going to be doing too much more to that, I don't think. Just try and tidy up the shape. I might stick the drift back in and try and get it more down the centre. I want the drift in so that it doesn't distort the eye, and try and bring it a little bit more forward. Just a touch maybe. Anyway, let's see if we can get the eye, the drift back in it, and I don't know, tidy it up somehow. I really have no idea what I'm doing. The first time for ages, I'm really out of my comfort zone. I think that's, it could just be that because, like I've said at the beginning of the video, I've sort of lost my mojo a bit. Just gonna try and thin that little bit just below the eye. It's just a bit of a fat neck on it. That's a bit better. It's not up the middle, but it's taken that fat bit out a little bit. You can see how it's all gone pissy-eyed. So I've just got to try and square it up a little bit. I want to try and, I think I'm just trying to say to you, I want to do it without distorting the eye, which is why I want to put the drift back in, if I can find it. What I've done with it. Oh, where's that gone? What the hell have I done with that? Oh, there it is. Where I left it, where it fell out. Right. You can see that that drift was made from my experiment on the lantern. Or part of the lantern. Or part of the lantern bracket. I was trying to do the diamond, that was my experiment. Alright, it's back in. That's probably in far enough. I might put it in a little bit more. Figure out the best way to try and square it up. That isn't it. That's better. Push it across. You've got to sort of try and hit it. It's difficult to describe, but you instinctively sort of know which bit you've got to hit to get another bit to move, sort of thing. So it's looking better already, but it's still not right. But what I'm going to do, I think, is leave that drift in there, warm it up, and then perhaps just run a bit of water over the drift to cool that centre bit out. With that. And then that hopefully will stop things getting too out of hand. Right. Let's don't know what I'm doing there. I think I'm trying to get it. Of course, now you can't see it now. I've moved the camera up the other way. Oh, basically what I was doing, let's get them out of the way, was that, but on the other end of the anvil. Just trying to swell those cheeks a little bit. Because they're not very wide. That's one thing I think I could have improved on, is somehow made them a little bit wider. But hey ho. It'll do. See, it's a little bit more up the centre now. Still got to go over at the little tiddly bit there. And that's not quite it. It's a case of knock it back one way and then back the other, and knock it down through the hole. Try and keep the thing square. No, that's not bad, it's not brilliant, but it's sort of somewhere near. I think we might call it a day there, almost, because I don't think I'm going to improve much on that. I'd like to try and get that a bit sharper on that end, but other than that, I think we'll just I have no idea what I'm talking about. You obviously realise I put these narration on after the video, but I'm sort of talking to myself while I'm making the actual tool, or while whatever it is I'm making. Now I try and remember what I was saying when I get home, but I've lost it. Completely lost it. Alright, that is going to be it. That's about as good as I'm going to get, I think. So we're going to cool that out and call it a day at that for the forging anyway. Okay, so I've been on this project nearly an hour. Way too much forging for my liking. So I'm going to get on the grinder now. We've got it to that stage, which for my liking is ample. It's almost up the centre. I think it probably twisted a little bit when I cooled it out. It's worse on the back, not quite up the centre, but bloody hell, it's good enough for me. It's something I haven't enjoyed doing, probably won't do another one, but I want to get it finished, so we'll get it on the grinder, see what we can come up with. Right, let's crack on with this one. Just tidy the actual radius up on the bottom. Make that nice and even. That up. And actually it becomes blatantly obvious within a few seconds that there's bugger all else I can grind on this. Job to get to the back of that. That's pretty useless. I can't get to the inside of the back of it, so almost a waste of time. Oh dear, what am I doing? I've lost it. Never mind, let's stick it up in a vise and we'll get on with the ordinary grinders, see if we can do it with that. Right, so we've just got it in the vise. I'm just going to use an ordinary grinding disc to start with. Just take the rough edges off. And I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on this with a grinder. I always, depends what the project is, but a lot of my projects I will grind towards the end. There's very few of them are left. As it comes out the forge. Obviously some are, but now I'm going to go onto this flap disc. I've got a ceramic one on here. I bought a few of these ceramic ones and they're really pretty good. They do seem to last well. Obviously they're a lot more expensive, but they last pretty good. I'm just going to take a few little bits and pieces off here. These are, now in what grit are these? I think these are 80s, might be 60s, not sure. Most of my flap discs I usually use are 40s, but these I think, without looking, yeah, I don't know. But they're not 40s anyway. They're finer than that. So that's the first edge. Let's see if we can do the same on the back. Just take the worst off with the ordinary grinder. Now, they're sparking quite well, and there's lots of posts and all sorts on various different websites and what have you about hardness of these railroad spikes, because some of them have HD on the top. Well, or no, beg your pardon, HC, and a lot of people say, you know, that's high carbon. Well, it may well be, but it's not what you'd call real high carbon. It's probably a higher carbon content than the other ones, because there are some plain spikes, and a higher carbon content than your average bog standard bit of steel. But there's not enough to warrant hardening and tempering. They are definitely harder than an ordinary piece of steel, but not hard enough to warrant any hardening and tempering. So I shall just leave this as is. Now, I cooled it out, I dunked it straight in the Bosch, so you know, if it has got any carbon in it, it may, or much carbon in it, it may have hardened it a little bit, but I would hardly think it's worth, you know, worrying about. I don't think it's one of those things that's going to hold a terrific edge. But then, you know, I'm not going to use it, so it don't matter. Right, I'm not quite sure. You see, I've just tighten up slightly, and it's marked it. So I'm just going to get a bit of lead or something to put in there, just to hold it with. Just stuff a bit of lead down each side. You could use wood, use whatever you like, but I've got shed loads of lead lying about, which I used to use for putting in the bases of things to make things heavier. Just to melt it in. I've got loads of it kicking about. And it's dead handy for holding stuff. So same again, just do the sides with the ordinary disc. As I was saying, yeah, the hardness bit, you know, you'll get people say, oh yes, they're this hard, they're that hard. Well, from what I've seen so far with the one I did a couple of days ago and this one, it's not enough carbon in it to worth hardening and tempering. It's not going to hold a proper edge. Obviously it depends what you're going to do with them, you know, like I say, mine's not going to get used, it's going to be an ornament. In fact, I might give it to the wife to sell in her shop, but if you know, wanted to take this out into the woods and chuck it at trees and stuff, you know, it might not work. Right, so I've done that. I'm going to get it ground up a little bit more. Before I go, I'm just going to show you this tool I bought. It's bloody marvellous. It's die grinder. Of course, I've fixed the focus so you can't see it. Metabo die grinder, picked up cheap on the old bay. And I'll tell you what, I wish I'd had one years ago. What a marvellous tool they are. They really are terrific for getting into welds, you know, in tight corners. Bloody marvellous, and it's going to do a cracking job of this. You can see it's tearing it off. Unfortunately, this is where my camera's about to die, so I'm just trying to zoom out to let you see this wonderful tool before the camera dies, and that's it. I think I paid 40 quid for it, or 50, no, 60 quid I think I paid for it. Brilliant. It's got 6 speeds. It's quite powerful, about 700 or 800 watts I think. And as I say, I've found it absolutely marvellous so far. I use it virtually every day. Wish I'd had one years ago. It's like all these tools. You know, you make do, and when you get a proper tool, it's marvellous. Anyway, the camera died. I put it on the not really a grinder, sort of a sanding disc with some reasonably fine paper, and just do like a satin finish on it. I'm not going to polish it. It doesn't come up bad. I like the size of the hole on that one. I could have done with a little bit more meat in the cheeks perhaps, but as I say, it's not going to get used. But if I ever do put it on a handle, that'll be, you better put a decent handle on it. So there you go, satin finish, railroad spike, axe, tomahawk, chopper, whatever you like to call it. Probably the last one I'll ever do, but it hasn't come up bad. Reasonably pleased with it. There's things I would do differently next time if I did one. But there you go, thanks for watching.